And let's go right ahead and get into this right now. So, the worst team, I think, in the postseason is, and I'm sure a lot of you guys see this coming, it is the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers, they play some of the ugliest football that you can ever imagine in like 90% of their games. They take a lot of field goals, they play a lot of defense, and they get stops, but they don't really generate much when they get those stops. They have had, a couple of high scoring games, yes, but for the most part, this team tends to just be, it's just boring to watch Steelers games, in my opinion. It is unbelievable, like, how they're able to have winning season after winning season after winning season while still playing horrible. And it really doesn't matter the quarterback in at the helm for this team. They still find ways to win. Like, obviously, that spells out, good team, competent team. But in this case, for the Steelers, it does not. Every single year we see them go positive, and almost every single year when they do end up going positive, they finish the year off losing a bunch of games, and then they go into the postseason and they don't win anything in the postseason. So I expect absolutely nothing less coming in from the Steelers in the postseason for this year. It's just blah for the Steelers, and a lot of people, they like to put themselves in playoff purgatory, and they, for this specific reason, the fact that they make the playoffs every single time, they want to fire their head coach, which is unbelievably spoiled, in my opinion. If your problem is that you always make the playoffs, I would love to have that problem. But I digress. The next worst team, at least in my opinion, is the Dallas Cowboys. I'm just kidding. The Cowboys did not even make the playoffs, but they would be at the bottom of this list, by the way, if they did. But anyways, the real second worst team, are the Houston Texans. Now, these guys, they've been playing bad. CJ Stroud has been playing bad. A big reason is because they have suffered from injuries in the regular season, but CJ Stroud has not been the same generational talent that he was in his rookie year, which is a little bit odd, but that might be, what happens when teams sort of figure you out, teams figure out your tendencies, teams actually have NFL film that they can look at and accurately scout you. And I will say, I am rather surprised that CJ Stroud has not sort of, emerged as one of the top players and one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. I really thought that was going to happen, eventually. Like, I really, really did think that was going to happen, but it did not. And that's sort of been the slight issue that I've had with a team like this. And really, it's just, quarterback play. Like, it's ridiculous how bad quarterbacking can be the main reason why you lose a bunch of these games. And there's really not much that needs to be said other than, like, I think this team incredibly underperformed, and they missed the mark on the ability to have an incredible season with CJ Stroud. I mean, there was, again, the biggest reminder of that was their matchup against the Detroit Lions, where Jared Goff turned into Jared Goof, threw 5 interceptions, and they still were able to lose that game because they could not score in the second half of that game whatsoever. It was absolutely disgusting. And those kind of games, you absolutely cannot lose. When the quarterback is just giving you the ball, you cannot afford to lose that, like, at all. Like, it was really, really bad. Now, the next team on this list was a little bit difficult, but I'm going to go with the Broncos and the big reason why I'm going with the Broncos is because while Bo Nix played really well at the end of the week and beat the Chiefs, he was playing against the Chiefs' second unit. And I think that the Broncos and their inexperience is going to get the best of them when going into this postseason. That being said, however, I also think that the Broncos have the ability to actually pull off an upset against against the Bills. Like, I know that I think the Bills are going to end up winning the game, But if there was any team that I genuinely think could actually do the upset, it would be Denver going up against the Bills. I don't know why. It's something about that game where I just think something ridiculous is going to happen. But in just on paper, I think that the Broncos, they're right here on this list. They're one of the third worst. That's just me though. Then the next team on this list was a little bit difficult, but I'm going to go with the Buccaneers and their roster. I know that they have a great quarterback. This is like, I consider the Bucs a pretty solid team. I consider them a good team. Borderline good team, if anything. Baker Mayfield has had a phenomenal season. They also have one of the best wide receivers, one of the most underrated wide receivers in the history of wide receivers in Mike Evans. And they could really make some noise. They did pull off an upset last season, which, was very surprising, and I really like that. But, you'd think a team that won the Super Bowl 4 years ago and has won the NFC South every season since, the last two with quarterback Baker Mayfield, they would get a little bit more respect, right? You'd think that, but I don't know. I mean, they handed Detroit one of its 2 losses in this season, but again, that was also in the beginning of the season, so I'm not entirely sure about that. But I don't know. It's like I'm not really that big on the Bucs actually beating their competition going into the wild card, despite the fact that they're going to host it. So that's really just the only problem that I have, really. Now, the next team on this list is going to be the Rams. And I mean, the big problem that I had with the Rams throughout most of the season was the fact that this team was very unhealthy. Now that they are healthy, I do think that they could be a rather competent team. The problem is that they're going to go up against probably the best number 5 seed of all time. Like that's really the big issue that is really going to go down with the Rams. They're going to have to go up against the Vikings. And, I mean, the Vikings are the only team that has to play an away wildcard game that has 14 wins. Like, that is incredible to think about. That is absolutely ridiculous to think about. But for that reason, I don't really have them ranked that high because I don't think they're going to win in that matchup. But anything can happen now that the Rams are healthy. They have incredible talent at the receiver position. So anything is possible for this team. Then the next team that I have directly in front of them is going to be the Green Bay Packers. I would have put the Green Bay Packers a little bit higher, and one of the big reasons why I left them at this is just the assumption that Jordan Love is going to be playing, right? And I was going to put them higher, but recently Jordan Love has been playing really mediocre in a lot of these games, or less than mediocre in a lot of these games, and I think that's going to be the downfall for the Packers. Now, if he's not playing, then I genuinely think that this team should be like maybe just above Pittsburgh and maybe just above Houston, but without Jordan Love, I don't think the Packers are going to really do much or make much noise in the postseason. Like, they really, really do need Jordan Love. They need him. They desperately need him. And now, the next team directly above that is going to be Washington with Jaden Daniels and the ridiculous season that he's been having. Simply put, he knows how to close games. Obviously, he's had, some games, like some stinker performances. I mean, he put up a little bit of a stinker when he went up against the Cowboys in their matchup at home, where the Cowboys, they started returning. But then again, you can make the argument that it wasn't necessarily his fault because the Commanders' special teams was giving up touchdowns. But I will say this team, they know how to close out games with Jaden Daniels. And while a lot of people, they might call their matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a potential upset, we know that the underdogs in this team are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because Washington, they have a better record going into this wild card game against Tampa Bay. So I don't think that's going to be an upset, which is why I say that the most likely upset is going to be the Broncos going up against the Bills because, quite frankly, I don't see the Commanders as underdogs going into that game. I genuinely don't see it whatsoever. So that's all that I really got to say about that. The next team that's going on this list is the Vikings. Now, I know I talked a lot about the Vikings and how good I genuinely think they are, but I will say this. Sam Darnold's your quarterback. I don't know how much I'm like going to trust that Sam Darnold is going to actually have a really good game in the playoffs. Like, not to mention, they've been in the playoffs before, and they disappointed their fans before when they went up against the Giants when they were the favorites to win in that game. And, I mean, Sam Darnold, that's really the only issue. I mean, Sam Darnold has never played a playoff game. This is going to be the first appearance that he's in. And do you really trust him? Eventually, I've been saying this for a while, like in my head, eventually this team is going to realize the issues of having Sam Darnold at quarterback. And I think that is going to happen in the postseason. Again, I could be completely wrong because this team is very, very talented, but I would not be surprised. I genuinely would not. I would not be surprised if this team somehow drops the ball against the Rams, a much more experienced postseason team where Matthew Stafford has already won a Super Bowl, has made numerous playoffs and things like that. I would not be surprised. Now, the final 5 teams, this one was very, very tricky to get down, but I'm going to have to put the Eagles next on this list, and the reasoning for that is simply because Jalen Hurts. Now, is Jalen Hurts going to play good? Is Jalen Hurts going to play bad? I mean, is he going to be turnover prone in a lot of these games? However, I will say that, the Eagles, all of these teams that I'm going to mention, they're really, really good teams, and they have perfect potential to make a bunch of noise. Now, I will say that, Saquon has been very unguardable in this season. They have the best running back, and really the big question is whether or not Jalen Hurts is going to be turnover prone going into the playoffs. And quite frankly, I genuinely do not have this team ranked as high as the other teams going into this. It was really difficult choosing between either the Eagles or between the Bills at putting them next on this list. That was really the big issue that I've had. And I'm genuinely not entirely sure which team I would go for, but I'd say right now they're tied. And a big reason why I put Philly underneath the Bills is because I don't like Philly. That's really the only thing. But if I could, I would put them at a tie right now because I genuinely like each one of these teams. They could go really far or they could disappoint. Like, there's really no in between for either of those teams. Now, the next team on this list is going to be the Baltimore Ravens. Now, they have the MVP in Lamar Jackson. They have a star running back in Derrick Henry. Like, this is just a phenomenal season for the Ravens. And if I were to choose on which team is going to end up making the Super Bowl and my Super Bowl matchups, like, from the start of the season, I thought that it was going to be Ravens against the Lions. I was thinking a Ravens-Lions Super Bowl was going to be what we're treated to. And it could very well happen. But as of right now, I have the Ravens here at 3, and that's mainly because of the other 2 teams that are directly above them. They have things that I've either just never seen before or, like, I genuinely think that they could make noise, right? It's really difficult. I just put them at 3 despite the fact that they have the NFL MVP because a big reason why is Lamar Jackson's play in the postseason. Now, Lamar Jackson is notorious for underperforming in the postseason, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does that again. Now, this next team, the Detroit Lions, these guys have been ridiculous all year, and they've been scoring the ball a lot. They've been defending well. Their safety leads the league in interceptions, and they have 2-star running backs. And Montgomery is also expected to return going into the divisional game. Now, big reason why I don't have them at number 1 is because they are the Lions, and they almost made the Super Bowl last season, but then they choked it at the very end, allowing San Fran to come back. And Whether or not they overcome those bugaboos is still remain to be seen, but nonetheless, this team has been a well-oiled machine in the regular season, and there's really no contest. And then finally, you guys know exactly who's at number one: Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I will say this, that the Chiefs, they've been ridiculous. They've been great all season. They've been winning. They have the best record in the entire NFL. Big reason why that this team is so competent is because of their defense. A lot of people, they think it's dark magic that they use to win a lot of these games, but I really feel like they're just like, playing on easy mode. They're like just steaming through the regular season, and they're only really trying hard once they get into the postseason. Simply put, Patrick Mahomes is a different animal, and I never ever count on him to lose a single game in the postseason. He just doesn't do that. He plays the regular season leaning back, and then he sits up to play in the postseason. This is a team that knows how to handle the pressure. This is a team that knows how to defend just in case the quarterback doesn't play well. This is a team that has a quarterback that has a lot of experience playing in these situations. This quarterback ended up winning a game when they were down by a field goal with 15 seconds left. So, with all that being said, I never count this team out. And I think that if the Ravens aren't going to make the Super Bowl, then the Chiefs are going to do it once again. But those are my NFL playoff rankings. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Maybe you just completely disagree with them. Maybe you think it's a horrible list. Let me know what you guys think. But that's all that I have on this second segment. So now we're going to go into the third segment where I talk about Brock Purdy and the little contract situation that he has going on. And I'll be right back after this short break, so be sure to stay tuned.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.